What's up, friends? We are already halfway through September, which means Q4 literally is right around the corner. And since Q4 is around the corner, I wanted to get in front of it and share with you some of my thoughts on what we might expect to see when it comes to the real estate market here in the Philadelphia and surrounding area. Now, again, I want to get into this and share some of my thoughts or opinion, which if you've been following my content, a lot of the stuff that I forecasted previously, things such as a hike in interest rates, things such as buyer demand remaining high and housing inventory remaining low. If you've been following along, so far my predictions have been pretty accurate. So in this video, I want to talk a little bit about what I expect to see when it comes to housing inventory. I want to share with you my thoughts on home prices. I also want to share with you my opinion on buyer demand. One of the hot topics right now is mortgage interest, so it's only right that we include that in there as well. I want to talk a little bit about my opinion on new construction, and lastly, I want to talk a little bit about default. So starting out with inventory, we know that Q4 is a time of the year where we tend to see less homes on the market. Kids are back in school. We have some of the largest holidays here in this area of the country. Things get relatively cold. So because of that, we see less homes on the market. Now in Q4, I don't think that we're going to see less homes theoretically on the market. I really don't think that we can get any lower when it comes to inventory. As a matter of fact, the last few weeks here in Montgomery County, inventory has been trending slightly up. And I emphasize slightly. Before we were under a month of inventory. Today we sit just over 1 month of inventory. So even if some sellers decide that they're either going to wait till next year or they're just not going to sell at all, I still think that we're going to see some sellers forced to put their homes on the market. Now, a little bit later on what I mean by forced selling, a little later in this video. Now, what about home prices? Now, home prices have skyrocketed. They've climbed month over month. And as of right now, there really doesn't seem to be a reason to believe that home prices will not continue to appreciate. Now, what we are starting to see, and what I do think we will continue to see, is that the amount of appreciation will start to slow. As a matter of fact, we've already started to see appreciation slow down a little bit, but overall, homes are still appreciating month over month. So again, that trend is going to continue. I don't foresee a reason why not. The only thing that's going to change that is if we see significantly more inventory when it comes to listings. We need a lot more homes on the market in order to change that principle. Now, when it comes to buyer demand, we are already seeing buyer demand start to drop off. And I think we're going to continue to see more of that as we move forward into some of these uncharted territories. I don't even know if buyer demand is the right way to categorize it or to define it right now. It's more so buyer desire. Buyers are desiring to go in a different direction because interest right now has really gotten to a point where it's making people question if they can even afford a home. As a matter of fact, the interest has put a lot of buyers on the sideline where they just can no longer afford a home that meets their needs. When it comes to mortgage interest rates, this is a really loaded question. And to be honest, I really have no idea what's going to happen with mortgage interest rates. You turn around and you read one source, they say the feds won't raise the rates. You read another source, they say that they will raise the rates. Some people say that it's imperative for the feds to raise the rates. At the end of the day, I don't know. But what I think will happen is that we may, and I emphasize the word may, see one more rate hike before the year is out. Now, there's a good chance that we won't see a rate hike as well. But if anything, I think we may see one. Keep in mind that we are going into an election year. And I don't want to make this in any which way, shape, or form political. But when we're going into an election year, things when it comes to economics tend to get tiptoed around. No one wants to rock the boat too much. And I think that might be another reason why interest stays where it's at or maybe inches up slightly. New construction is a section of real estate that I think is going to continue to flourish for the next few months and throughout 2024. Now, the biggest reason for that is, again, supply is our issue. And right now, builders are the ones who control the supply. A few years ago, when these mortgage rates dropped so much and everyone refinanced, they then put themselves in a situation where they have what we refer to as golden handcuffs. People don't want to sell their home in fear that they will now be subject to buying another home at a much higher interest rate. So rather than sell their home for the bigger home that their lifestyle needs, they find ways to deal with the property that they currently own and stay married to that mortgage rate. So if existing homes aren't coming onto the market and probably will be slow to come to the market because of reasons like that, new construction or homes that people aren't living in really is the only way to solve that problem. Now, it's also slated that new construction will make up for about 30% of all real estate sales throughout the country over the next few months, or over the next year, I should say. So it's quite interesting to see how these builders are operating. And some of them actually are having a hard time, but it's very difficult to compete with a builder because builders can also offer things to incentivize buyers. Builders can do things like give free upgrades. A lot of them also have affiliated services such as mortgage companies, title companies, and other services where they can offer reduced rates. So it's very, very hard for a traditional seller to compete with a new construction builder. But in this scenario, I don't think it matters because builders are going to continue to flourish at least for the next 12 to 18 months. And lastly, and this one's probably the most unfortunate, but it needs to be discussed, is default. Now, I do think that default rates will continue to climb. And yes, they are historically low, and some articles will lead you to believe that there is a foreclosure tsunami coming, and some of them will lead you to believe that there aren't any foreclosures forthcoming. Really, what I'm focusing on here is not the actual foreclosure in itself. What I'm looking at is the amount of people who are being notified that they're in default. How many people are coming to a realization whether they're being notified of default or not, meaning they're being notified that they're so far behind on payments that the lender intends to foreclose. It's that group of people, also the group of people that realize just because they feel the burden that they can no longer make their payments, that they are forced to sell. So if you remember earlier in the video when I spoke about people who would be forced to sell, this is that group of people. I'm not talking about them physically being forced to sell, but their lifestyle, their finances, or their budget, I should say, no longer allows for them to maintain their lifestyle and live in that home. And their best bet or solution is to sell. And well, again, although that is a small pool of people, it's still a section of real estate that needs to be discussed. So I do think people will have some hard times. Like job market, inflation continues to be all over the place, but at the end of the day, it costs us more now for goods than it did a year ago. People are feeling that pain, not only at the grocery store, but at the pump. People are spending more money to keep their homes cool during the summer and warm during the winter. And let's also not forget that there is a very questionable job market as well. If unemployment were to go above 6%, I do think that we're also going to start to see some more of the real estate market unravel. So there you have it. There's what I think we might see in Q4. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you think that if I have some of this stuff right. Let me know if you think that I'm completely off my rocker, or feel free to just share your insight. So with all that said, I'm Chris Nelson, the team lead of the Nelson Home Group, helping buyers and sellers here in the Philadelphia area. And until next time, take care.